Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests, including Aaron Volpatti, standing by, brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Giants return to the LEC November 18th. They take on Kamloops. Grab a White Spot pack for any of the Giants' home games. 4 tickets and a $40 White Spot gift card starting at $119. Get all the info at vancouvergiants.com/whitespot. And a reminder, tickets to the CHL Top Prospects game happening January 25th at the LEC are on sale now. As I mentioned, Aaron Volpatti is standing by. I just told you about his story in the previous segment. Yeah. And with that in mind, I want to run this moment from 2010 in Aaron's career.
Ballard intercepts that pass intended for Bergman, who was again trying to get behind the defense.
Whoa.
Glass with a hard hit. They center the puck. Volpatti scores! First career goal set up by a huge hit from Tanner Glass. And Aaron Volpatti has the Canucks up 1-0.
You want your fourth line to create some excitement. You don't necessarily think there's going to be some goals. But boy, oh boy, that fourth line made it happen. And Aaron Volpatti, celebrate the goal. Just go to the bench and celebrate the goal. That was a big hit by Tanner.
There you go. Number 54 on your lucky number program. That 5 years after Aaron survived a gas and fire pyro incident during a team camping trip outside of Vernon. Thanks so much for joining us, Aaron. With all you went through, what goes through your mind when you see something like that goal there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
It's been a while since we chatted, but yeah, I mean, is that not the quintessential fourth line goal right there?
Yeah, it is.
I think I can't, like, judging by my reaction, I remember just like, I think I blacked out, and then, I'm like, holy man, I just scored my first goal. And then I think I was wondering if we're going to get in a bit of a brawl there, because Glasser's hit was a pretty big one. So yeah, that was such a surreal moment.
Yeah.
For me, those first 2 games, especially, obviously the first game and then this goal in my second game, it's special for anyone, right? The first game, That first goal, for me, it all circled back to, like you said, 5 years prior to that, I was in the burn unit, told my career was over. So it was quite the journey, to say the least. Surreal for sure.
Can you take us back to 2005, Aaron, and the camping trip that changed your life?
Yeah. We were, like a lot of young kids, I thought I was invincible and was a daredevil. And I was just being reckless with gas and fire. And one thing led to another. And I basically blew myself up and was on fire for too long and did a lot of damage, and woke up the next day, very foggy. I don't remember a ton those first few days in Vancouver. And that's when my life changed, and this whole journey started.
What can you tell us about your recovery and how much hockey might have been on your mind at that point?
Yeah, the first few days were, like I said, they were pretty foggy. And I remember going through my first debridement procedure, which is, I don't have to get into the nitty gritty of what that is, but it's basically torture. They put you to sleep, and, they basically skin you alive to keep those skin graft areas fresh. So I came out of my first procedure, and that's the first time I had a chance to talk to the doctor. And I remember the first thing in my head, that popped up in that moment was, we have camp in whatever it was, 3-4 months. I had one more year of junior eligibility, and the NCAA was always my NHL. Mm-hmm. Pro hockey was never even on the radar for me. I just wanted to get a scholarship. Maybe it was, Div 3, but I figured if I could, add a few layers to my game, I was confident I could get a scholarship somewhere. So that's the first thought that pops into my head. And I remember asking the doctor, I have hockey camp, in a few months, and I'll never forget the look on his face. It froze, as if to say, that look said, this poor kid thinks he's going to play hockey in a few months. And he said, listen, these recoveries take years. you're going to be in here a while, and it's going to be a long road. You're going to make a full recovery, but maybe we look at getting you in a pair of skates a few years down the road, kind of thing. And that's how I was left in those first couple of weeks. That in the burn unit, my career was over, and then things changed.
And how did they change? How did they change? How soon were you in a pair of skates versus what the doctor was saying?
Yeah, so I got a call from my coach in Vernon a couple weeks into my stay, and he said, I just got off the phone with the assistant coach from Brown University, and he told me they're looking for a specific type of player. His exact words that were, we need a guy to put the fear of God in the defenseman of the Ivy League. And that's kind of what I did. That was my role. And he said, hey, I got the perfect guy for you. There's just, one major problem. He's in the burn unit, and it doesn't look promising. And he said, listen, just call him. So I called the coach, or the assistant coach from Brown University, and it was, left really open-ended. He said, we're sorry to hear what happened. We wish you the best in recovery. And, that was kind of it. And I remember hanging up the phone and thinking, man, I've worked my whole life to just talk to one of these scouts, and I'm finally there. But, look where I am. Look what I've done to myself. And there was this big, long list of reasons why I couldn't play, infection, the skin grafts. I was going to be in a bodysuit. I couldn't sweat from the areas that just went on. And I made a choice that day that, that those weren't good enough reasons for me. And that's really where the journey started. And I, this is a very shortened version, obviously, and that's part of the book, is telling the whole story. But yeah, I came back for that home opener the next fall there for the Vipers. I mean, the doctors were right. I had no business playing, but I did, and secured that scholarship to Brown a few months later.
When you were at the Vancouver General Hospital burn unit, you talked about visualizing being healthy.
Yeah.
The power of positive thinking. Tell us how that played in a role, because here's this injury you got, and to come back and to play a game where you were a hitter, you were play a physical game, and talk about that and getting back from where you were at the Vancouver General Hospital.
Yeah, and people always ask me, how did you come across visualization, or how did you discover it? And that's exactly how. When I made that choice, I thought, okay, how the hell am I going to get out of here and make a return to the ice? And you got to remember, I was bedridden, and I was wrapped up like a mummy, and I couldn't move. Yeah. And so that was all I had. And when I made that choice, I just started, visualizing, I visualized a few things: healing, healing faster, and what that felt like, and visualizing that whole process, and walking out of the hospital and visualizing myself, with the Vipers for that home opener, and signing that commitment letter to Brown. I really created this experience in my mind that I really essentially just lived in another reality, to be honest. And it was so powerful that, then the pain started becoming more manageable, and I really was a superpower, and I wouldn't have never made that recovery or come back to play hockey without that practice. And that's a big part of the book too, is just, opening up this world to people of the power of the mind and what we're really capable of. Right. And that doesn't mean it was easy. It was definitely not that, but yeah, that's a big part of the story for sure.
And I look at your overall journey, and now, Aaron, parents are spending 30, 40, 50 grand a year at academies. You played house hockey at 14. And at 14 in Revelstoke, you're not thinking NHL, but here you are, and you fought your way on and got a good role in Vernon. Talk about even before this incident, just growing up and the dream of the NHL in a small town in BC.
Yeah, you hit on a really interesting point there that I'll end this with, or this sentence with, I guess. But yeah, you know what? The NHL was, like you said, I played house hockey at 14. I got cut from select teams. I was never supposed to play in the NHL aside from the burn injury.
Yeah.
And I snuck into junior A, as a fighter, really. I scored 1 goal my first year of junior A and barely snuck into college, really. So yeah, it's just you never know. And I tell parents and families this all the time, you just never know, and never give up. And, for me, I was almost 25 years old when I even was on the radar of the NHL. But just going back to your point, the academies, and I have this discussion with my business now, what I do, and I talk to different parents and kids, and I always ask them, how much money do you spend on, whether it be academy fees and equipment? We all know the cost of equipment is astronomical these days. And, they give me a number, and it's whatever, tens of thousands of dollars, obviously, right? And I say, and how much do you invest on the mental side? And then they kind of give me this frozen look, right?
Yeah.
And I always say, I'd rather my son have $100 in hand-me-down gear and have the knowledge and, a practice of visualization and mindset all day, right? And have that piece versus, all the fancy equipment. And then people start thinking, right? And it's just such an important piece that I think is really, really undervalued and under-practiced. And so I think it's a little more at the forefront more, and people are more aware, I think, and which is great, because it really is a superpower.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a message for a lot of people, not just people who survive something like you went through, Aaron. You touched on something there. What are you up to these days, other than having written a book?
Yeah, the book's it's a full-time job right now, and we're going on a little tour, which is great. But so I work with athletes on the visualization side. So I teach visualization programs, and just really just opening up people's minds to this powerful practice. So between that and the author and some speaking gigs, I basically kind of have 3 separate things going on. The book's taken up a lot of time right now, and it's been fun, and doing this little bit of a tour here. So that's what I got going on.
Aaron, this has been great. Do you have, very quickly, and I hate to do this to you, but a message to anybody who is going through what you went through, burn survivors?
Yeah, burn survivors, and I think really just anyone, going through adversity, is the mind is the single most powerful thing that we have, and you're capable of a lot more than you realize. And I think if you can frame it differently, you look back one day and be thankful in a way for these hard times and the adversity.
Outstanding, Aaron. All the best with the book, and I'll mention the dates after you leave us about when you're going to be in Vancouver for your book signing. But really appreciate it. All the best. What a great story.
Yeah, guys. Cheers, and thanks for having me on.
You bet. Aaron Volpatti again. His book is entitled "Fighter Defying the NHL Odds." A book signing at the Canucks alumni luncheon, November 17th. At the Fairmont Hotel. He will also be signing books at the Canucks game, Rogers Arena, the 18th against the Los Angeles Kings. Aaron Volpatti, again, Fighter Defying the NHL Odds. That's his book,